Okay, so today I'm very excited. We are talking to Dr. Anne-Marie Imafidon. So from child prodigy to MBE, she stayed consistent. Anne-Marie is a keynote speaker, presenter and co-founder of Stemettes, the award-winning social enterprise inspiring the next generation of females into science, technology, engineering and mathematics roles. Being the youngest girl ever to pass A-level computing and going on to be one of the youngest ever to be awarded a master's degree in mathematics and computer science by the University of Oxford, aged 20. What were you doing at 20, you know?
Nah, don't listen. Don't try to out me here. Don't try to out me, okay?
Anne-Marie has unsurprisingly continued to soar. In recognition of her influence and achievements, she was awarded an MBE in the 2017 New Year's Honours for services to young women and STEM. And in June 2017, she became an honorary fellow at Keble College, Oxford. And in 2019, just say nothing. She was voted the second most influential woman in tech in the UK by Computer Weekly. That's who we're talking to today.
You talk to her.
Gosh.
I'm out.
Hello, how are you?
Hi guys, happy whatever day it is today.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing alright actually. I'm enjoying 2020. We have to see what happens in 2020. That's what we're going for.
Right, most definitely. So, today we're just gonna chop, chat, chill.
Yeah.
We're gonna chop. We're gonna talk about some things that nourish you. Then we're gonna chat. We know you've got a special topic to talk to us about. So I look forward to hearing more about that. And then we're gonna just chill. We're gonna step it back, talk about things about culture. Take it easy.
All right, so let's start with the most important thing. Let's chop.
Boom.
So, if you were cooking for one of your heroes, who would you cook for? What would you cook for them, and why?
Ooh, biggie.
So this is a tough one because I've been cooking a lot recently, and I've been cooking a lot from scratch. So there's quite a few things on my list. I've almost started thinking of menus. Not that I'm trying to kind of step on your toes at the moment, but I've got like set menus of things that I can cook people, starter, mains, and dessert that I can do in my kitchen easily. So it's probably easier to say who I cook for. So Gladys West is who I'd cook for.
Gladys
West. So she is an African American woman who's a mathematician, and she essentially came up with the idea for GPS. So we have loads of satellites orbiting, and they all do different things, but all of them we have to map where they are. We know where they are at any given point. And she was the one who figured out and was like, do you know what, actually, we've got that one there, and that one there. Then you can kind of basically build a triangle with anyone on Earth and know exactly where they are to quite a lot of accuracy. So anytime you're using Google Maps and you're following the blue dot, then I call her Auntie Gladys, but Auntie Gladys is the reason why we have the blue dot that kind of shows us where we are.
Auntie Gladys,
so I'd have her around.
It's fine because I'm lost about Google Maps.
Look, she came up with the concept. The implementation is Google's fault, but Auntie Gladys is the reason why we can find out where we are, I guess. So I'd have her. So I cook for her. I don't know, maybe it would be jollof rice. I think I cook a jollof rice and plantain. You stick to what you know, isn't it, really? But the kind of backups, at the moment, there's like a noodle place that I really am in love with, who put their recipe on Instagram. So I've been making hand-cut noodles at home from scratch.
Wow. And
that's like my second favourite thing to eat and to make. So I'd probably make that. Not as a starter or as a main, just as an alternate menu. She said she's allergic to rice.
What are you doing for dessert?
You've got such a sweet tooth.
I just wanted to
So what I do...
Look, Anne-Marie said before, she's been doing the set menu. I just want to make sure that Gladys gets what she deserves. Do you know?
So the starter would have been salt and pepper tofu.
Hey.
Yeah, which from scratch. And then it would be the noodles, and then the dessert is apple pie, but with maybe yuzu through it.
With what through it?
Yuzu to kind of stay in that theme, the Asian theme.
Okay, I understood.
Yeah,
I feel like I've thought about this, you know.
Yeah,
it felt like
everyone else came in. Everyone else is like, She's like, yeah, you know what? Let me just reels off that boom. Like,
she's practicing for MasterChef. She's practicing for MasterChef.
You know what I mean?
I would love I would love to run a supper club. It's something I've wanted to do for the last like 2 years, but life has happened, right? So I've been doing other things. But I genuinely think that now might be the time for me to just run like a super casual supper club. You know, like this, like not like you guys are entrepreneurs, but this will just be like, I've cooked too much. People come and sit down and just eat because I cooked too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think there's such a lovely thing, you know, just getting people together and just like, especially people who don't necessarily really know each other, you know, and just having. I mean, that's what, you know, a good meal really is, just like literally breaking bread and having like rich conversations. So
and giggles.
100%. Yeah. If you were a dish, what would you be?
She wasn't ready for that one.
Good.
I wasn't. I thought, you're not saying why. Can I just say the dish and leave it at that?
No, we need the why.
I want to know why. Yeah, 100.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. If I was a dish. I don't know. I'd be maybe a pie. I never know why I'd be a pie. I'd be the noodle dish because I really like it and I like myself.
That's a solid reason. That's a solid reason.
Self-love is important. Self-love is really important.
Yeah, self-love. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd be that. Anything else I'm thinking, like ogbono soup would have been the second one, but that's just because it's my favourite. So I don't know if I could call myself ogbono soup. It feels weird to say that out loud. I wouldn't call myself jollof rice because I'm not quite jollof rice. I don't know. We'll come back to it.
Sorry,
Yeah,
what does it mean if someone's jollof rice?
The jollof rice is like controversial, right? Everyone has their own way that they like it and that they eat it, and it's like at every party. But I'm not at every party, and there's not like different versions of me. There's just the one me.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, okay.
But then, even then, I don't know why I'd be hand cut noodles.
But maybe because if the noodles are hand cut, they're like unique, right? Like a hand cut noodle is I don't know why I'm telling her. A hand cut noodle.
I'm not
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, if you make hand cut noodles one day, the next day would be different. So like when you're the hand cut noodle, there's only one of the noodle. Like, should we move on?
Yeah.
I tried. I was really trying.
Ring up. Okay, next one.
This is when you get Cambridge and Oxford graduates together. This is a conversation, right?
I wish this was the conversation we're having in Oxford. I wish. Oh.
Cool. So let's chat. You wanted to speak about future-proofing yourself. For those that don't know, what is future-proofing?
So this is something that I'm talking about quite a lot. So I keynote speak, like you guys said, and I have the podcast, Women Take Charge, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think for me, at the moment, the thing that I'm kind of obsessed with or spend most of my time talking about is the fact that, you know, we're living in whatever year we're living in. There's all this technology that's coming up. And it used to be that technology was just for the geeks or just for the nerds or just for a certain type of person. But, you know, Facebook is a household name now. Like all these technology platforms are becoming part of everyday life. People have Zoom parties, for goodness sake. You know, it's become something that's not going to go away. And so future-proofing yourself, when I talk about it, is about saying, even if you're someone that's not in the technology industry, you know, digital skills, being able to access the internet, being able to apply for things online, being able to handle your own email account, being able to hold like social media platform accounts and being able to communicate and being able to build and being able to explore and being able to learn. All these things are things that are kind of, they're not even just future skills, they're skills for now that you almost need to get used to so that you're ready for the future. So for me, future-proofing is about making sure that not only you have the skills, but that you're digitally remembered and that you digitally catalogue what's going on. So there's lots of examples of people being afraid of like tweeting or not wanting to post on LinkedIn, or, you know, being hesitant about sharing ideas because of their own kind of internal fears and their own kind of, oh, I don't get this technical thing. I don't really understand Twitter. I don't really understand what that is. And with future-proofing yourself, it's about saying, do you know what? It's not necessarily about you being the best person at Zoom or you being the best person at Twitter or you being, you know, the biggest, baddest coder, but it's about you understanding it in the same way that you understand English or that you might want to understand maths. So as much as we like to say, oh, I don't get maths, and it's kind of cool to say, you'd never say that about English, but also you get maths enough to know that if you're being underpaid or if you're going to get a good deal, or if you've got the right size shoe that you're about to put on, right? So we understand maths enough for that. We're not doing it so we can be people that pass their GCSEs at 2, but we're doing it to have an understanding of the world. And it's the same with English. You've learned English. No one was born speaking English. You've learned it, and you use your English skills to read, to write, to communicate, to get around, to know where you're going. And so seeing technical and digital as that third side of, you know, we're going to have driverless cars. We're going to have Wi-Fi fridges. We're going to have all kinds of crazy things. We already talk to inanimate objects and say, hey, I'm scared even to say, hey, Alexa, sometimes, because literally I could, especially these days, I could be saying, hey, Alexa, and that person's thing could be loud enough that something on the other side of the room starts talking, and that's become normal to us. So I think having that digital understanding and not being afraid to learn it, because it's something you're just going to continually have to learn because these things continually change, is something that I'm very passionate about, allowing people to kind of see things slightly differently and understand that there's small steps that they can take to be more digitally literate, but they need to do that because it's not going anywhere. We will have driverless cars, and you don't want to be at the mercy of your driverless car. You don't want to be at the mercy of your Wi-Fi fridge or your Wi-Fi kettle. You know, we don't know what the children, when they go to school and have in many years' time, are going to end up seeing. You know, hopefully it will be a real teacher, but all the other tech around their experience is going to be the kind of thing that you want to understand and you want to know, because if you don't, then the tech is going to be used against you. So, you know, even if we talk about the whole Black Lives Matter discussion, you know, there's so much that we're saying just in terms of basic justice. But when we think about technical justice and the fact that, you know, a lot of these algorithms can't tell the 3 of our faces apart, right? So if one of us commits a crime, I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm not saying who it would be, it's the kind of thing that if it sees any of us, it would say all of us were the ones that committed the crime, because it can't tell our faces apart. Meanwhile, Bob, Gary and Jim down the pub, it can tell them apart, you know, 10 times over. And so it's that kind of thing where it's, you know, you need to understand these things so that maybe you do cover your face if you see a camera in public, or maybe you are the person that builds the algorithm that can tell the 3 of us apart, as well as Jim, Bob and Gary down the pub. So future-proofing is something that I'm quite passionate about, because I know it's easy for me to say it's not hard, but I think it's one of those things that I've already seen, like from talking to people, that if you, like, you have to have this thing of like, you always want to learn, you always want to know what's coming next, because otherwise you will get left behind. And that's it. My word of warning.
That was, go on, did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really interesting what you said about being digitally remembered. I suppose I had a question, like, is this more important for a generation, you know, such as ours, who've kind of grown up with the internet, or, you know, is this as important for our parents' generation? I know, like, our parents are like stepping onto social media and things, but, like, you know, is it okay if they, for example, if they didn't, and is it more like a burning platform for, you know, our generation, or even like our young sister who's like, you know, who's just stepping into her like adult life?
So I think it's something important for everybody, but for different reasons. So it'd be important for your sister because by the time she's economically active, it's going to be a given that she knows a lot of these things. So even now, like, a third of people don't have the digital skills they need to do the job that they're currently doing. Right? And so you've got to think your sister is going to come in at a point where the bar is actually quite high. So she needs to be learning, and she needs to be absorbing, and she needs to be comfortable now, because by the time she goes into work, there's going to be a whole side of it that she will need to have the transferable skills from her personal technical life to her professional technical life. But I think for our parents' generation, it's the same thing where, you know, people are living for longer. So our parents are going to work for much longer than the generation before did. And this technology isn't going anywhere, right? So them being able to be leaders, or them being able to just be employable and have the employable skills that they're going to need in the next 10 years, let's say, for some of our parents, the next 20 years, is something that they need to get now, because whatever things they have against them, the technology is going to become a whole nother layer of things of being like, you don't understand how that works. You don't understand how that new system takes in offers. You don't understand how that, you know, care algorithm decides X, Y, and Z. And they, again, will suffer professionally because of not having that just understanding. But it's one of those things that you don't have to understand all of it, but just having a literacy. I always give the example, like, you understand English, but you didn't learn English to be Shakespeare. You just learn it to be able to get by. So I'm not asking all of our parents to, you know, start their own tech startups, but the idea is whatever you're doing, there's going to be a digital element of it that if you don't know, or you don't appreciate, or you haven't even begun to start to try learning, then you're going to be left behind in quite a big way.
That's so so I was still thinking about what you said about the technical justice, because I remember when I was applying for, I think it was something to do with my passport, and they scanned, and it's happened to a number of people. So the first time it happened to me, I thought it was just me. Then I saw online, and they scanned my photo, and they're like, "Your mouth's open."
Your mouth's open, yeah.
Mouth's open. I've just got bigger lips than whatever the algorithm is built around.
Wow.
And so when I was on social media, so many other people, like, it happened to me once. I was like random.
Your mouth's open though, like.
Yeah.
Because like if they've decided the mouth is here, then they're picking up like lip here.
That's
and
crazy.
So then like on social media a couple months later, someone else said it, and then this woman, and that was the first time it twigged for me that actually technology is being, if like everything we see in society is going to be replicated by technology if we don't have different people like taking this into consideration. So this woman, I can't remember her name now, had done a whole thread about what
Joy Boylamini, maybe.
I think so. That sounds familiar, and had done this whole thread about the sort of thing Anne was talking about, how like basically that really opened my eyes to how me, who thinks our technology is over there, it really matters, because that's how it will now be saying I can't get a passport because of the technology hasn't been built to recognize me. That's
a bit mad.
It's mad, but it's the truth. But it's one of those things that's just an example you can see, right? So you've uploaded that photo. It said to you, it looks like your mouth is open, which is what it says. It's not just you. It's not just the other person you're on Twitter. This is like, there's a couple of hundred, maybe, that happens kind of within a month, of people with darker skin who are applying for British passport, who upload a photo as, with straight, not smiling, all that kind of stuff, and it says your mouth is open. So that's something you can see, right? And it's really obvious to you that it's like, I won't get this passport because it thinks my mouth's open. It has to go raise to an exception and then come back. But then you have to think there's the things you can't see. So like, for example, there was a big tech company last year who decided to launch their own credit cards. And this is a different kind of bias, but they ended up having husband and wives who had like joint financial history, right? As soon as they got married, they got a joint account. They're now in their 50s, now in their 60s, applying for credit cards. And the credit limit of the husband was 17 times the credit limit of the wife. And that's the kind of thing where it's like, with your credit limit, you don't know what it is that it's taken in. You don't even necessarily see that. You're just someone applying, not realizing that unless you speak to your husband, or, if you don't have a husband, you've applied as the woman and yours is 17 times smaller than your male counterpart. So it's that kind of thing where there's examples that keep coming out, and then you don't even realize. So you go through life with a smaller credit rating, credit file, credit limit, not realizing that person there has more, just because the algorithm was trained to not really recognize that maybe you want to spend, or you can actually back it up as much as that person can, because it's coming from the same bank account.
How do you, obviously, like, even if you were digitally literate, how do you kind of like, stop or be able to kind of navigate certain things like that? Because there's something like that's kind of a, and the passport thing it's kind of like a bit out of your control.
So it is and it isn't, right? So it's the same as all the stuff that we're seeing now for justice. So there are petitions, there are legal groups, there are groups that you can contribute to, but you can only do that if you understand it. So I always talk about like immigration, right? There's lots of people who have an opinion on immigration. They're not immigration lawyers, but they understand the concept enough to say, I'm going to vote Brexit or not going to vote Brexit, right? And they've got their voice and they're able to apply it. So this is why I think future-proofing yourself and having that digital literacy is really important, because then you can be a part of saying, actually, no, that's the wrong side of that line. That's come on, I'm not comfortable with that making decisions on my children's education, or I'm not comfortable with that being used to kind of set a sentence, or I'm not comfortable with that being used for food allocations, or whatever else it is that we end up getting technology involved with, or job applications. I mean, that's the other thing we end up seeing. Even job ads then end up, because it's all in the algorithm and it's all kind of automatically sifted through what ads you see, we then also see the same thing happening where sometimes you won't even be advertised the job, let alone be discriminated against when you then apply for the job, right? So I think it's one of those things that, the same way as people have said, take off advertising, that website shouldn't allow advertising of that kind. It can be the same kind of thing where we say, actually, that's not okay. We don't think it's okay for us to have police vans that are capturing images of faces. So you can use that, because that's what they've done, right? But not enough people understand it for there to be the right level of uproar. So, yeah.
I actually wanted to talk a bit more about when you talk about being digitally remembered, and I guess almost like people's digital legacy. Why do you think it matters?
So it matters because if things continue the way they are, that example of the passport, for example, it's because the algorithm has had a particular data set. So there's been a particular, so actually it's for two reasons. One is, the algorithm's had a particular data set and it hasn't had enough of our faces. So that data set is basically applying a certain type of face. The way you can tell what's happening in a certain type of face, it's applied that to our face. And what it actually is the change in colour. So because the change in colour is quite a lot between our top lip and our bottom lip and then the skin below, it then thinks that your lighter lip is your mouth open because there's a difference in colour. So if you had lots of different parts of data, if we had more selfies uploaded, if we had more images out there, if we were more visible, right, then that would mean that that was less likely to happen because you'd have better data going into your algorithm. So there's that side of things. But the second side is there's a lot of people that do a lot of things and the stories aren't told. And then that impacts what happens next. So even with me, I'm quite a visible person. My story is known by a couple of people. It's not known by everybody, right? I'm on Wikipedia and my page isn't as full as it is Beyonce or any of the other people. And I'm not saying I'm Beyonce, but there is something about, but there is something about making sure that you have a trail and that you are remembered so that then kind of no one can kind of hide that that's the thing that happens next. And I think it's something that is that kind of thing where in being modest, you're almost erasing the work that you've done or the progress that you've had, or you're saying it's not worth the other people whose stories that we tell. And this is something that then impacts. So, you know, the power of stories, even something like that statue that was knocked down in the Bristolian, in Bristol, like that's the story of that person is something that's been written down, and so it's been remembered, and so it's been able to impact in these things that we now know. Whereas there are so many other stories around that, let's say the slaves that died, that we don't know who they are. They're just numbers. And we don't know what they achieved. We don't know what we can learn from what they did. And so it's that kind of thing that now it's not only, you know, we have fewer gatekeepers of some of these stories being told. So it's not only be in the press or only have your statue. It could be have a full Twitter stream. It could be have a blog. It could be but leave something there so that then other people can't erase it because you're the person that's put it up. You've left those ideas, you've left those things there. And that could feed into the algorithms so that then if someone called Iffy steps forward and wants to, I don't know, run a restaurant business in the future, the algorithm maybe can pick up and be like, do you know what? Someone called Iffy actually did it before, so maybe it will work this time around and maybe we will give them more in their loan and then maybe X, Y, and Z. So it's that idea of kind of don't be modest unnecessarily because you never know who needs to know that story, who needs to see that data point.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
And you might as well control the story yourself rather than let it be rumours.
Yeah, I think it's when I was having a conversation with a friend and they were talking about like self promotion, and they were saying, "Oh, you do it really well, Meth," and I was like, "Yeah, but it's not." I don't really think it's about it as self promotion. It's about actually putting something out there that you think that someone else may find value of. And I suppose it's kind of like what you're saying is like I think a lot of people are only thinking that when I'm publicizing, it's because it's all about like putting me out there, but actually you're actually putting yourself out there for other people. And so yeah, if you can actually think that you're kind of giving that value. But I wanted to kind of just like touch on that a bit more because obviously there's lots of different ways that you could be digitally remembered. Like, you know, I've seen people say, oh, okay, blogs are, you having a blog is like maybe the best way that, you know, or there's social media. And equally in terms of like understanding this kind of like different technical worlds, like just in terms of practical steps, what would you recommend people to do to if they want to start becoming digitally remembered, and also if they just wanted to start really getting to grips in terms of their digital literacy?
So there's lots of different things. I think number one is don't do it alone. So as you're learning to, get used to blogging or whatever it would be, find your tribe, do it with other people. So whether it's like an accountability group, whether it's joining like Clothing Back Females or any of these other kinds of groups, if you're trying to learn it as a skill, find your tribe and do it with other people because it's much easier to do that. And there'll be things that they realize that they don't get that you get, and that kind of becomes like a bit of like a nice confidence boost as you're kind of rolling up into it. And the other thing is there's a great framework called Working Out Loud. that a friend of mine wrote, that's about kind of being generous in the way that you network and in the way that you contribute online. So one of the things I always say is the easiest thing, actually, if you're going to start today posting on any platform, the easiest thing is to say thank you to someone. So thank you to someone, either you've attended their event, or thank you to someone like Beyonce who inspires us all, right? And so it's that thing of writing thank you to people and continually writing thank you, or if you're at an event and continually tweeting along and tagging that person, and that's like an even more detailed thank you, because it's like, here's what I actually learned from what you said that resounded so much that I've put it in a tweet and I've tagged you, right? And so doing that, the more you type thank you, the more it's easier for you to then be part of those conversations. And someone might tweet you back, right? And that's like a nice little reward that you get from being a part of it, right? And if they don't, that's fine. You've still said thank you. You've put that out into the ether, and you've also been really clear on why you're thankful for it. So that's the always the easiest step I say to people, you know, find them. If you've been to an event, if you've read a book, if you watched a movie, like whatever it is, say thank you to the person that has made it. I mean, don't make it up. If you didn't like it, don't say it. Say thank you to the person that's had the impact. And if it's genuine, then you're able to say things, and people connect really well with that kind of thing. So then that's easier, and then you can build from that, and that makes it easy. But yeah, working out loud is good. And then there's another book called How to Win Friends and Influence People that can help you kind of frame your mind in terms of like, what are the interactions you want to have with people online.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think we should chill.
Let's do it.
So I know you watch a lot of TV.
I do.
you wouldn't think it given everything she's up to, but Anne-Marie,
I watch a silly amount of TV, man. It's ridiculous.
If you could star in a TV show, what would it be and why?
A new one or existing one?
As you wish.
If I could star in the TV show, do you know what? This is an idea that was pitched that never really happened. So if I could star in a TV show, it'd be the one that was pitched. So it was a group of 4 teenagers in Everton, and they're all teenage girls, and they're all technical, and they basically like they're not really friends or something, or they don't really get on, and then they end up finding each other, and they end up like coding something together, and then they enter a competition in the US. And then they I don't know if they win, because it's Hollywood, isn't it? So people win stuff. And I was the teacher that like put them together and was their mentor, so that'd be what I'd do.
That's cool.
That's
basically real life.
She's ready.
And you know what?
I'm ready.
Like, look, guys who are watching this, if someone wants to take that idea and make it happen, like, let's do that.
You have to put me though. No, you heard it here first. Whoever's taking the idea, don't be stealing ideas. That's the other reason why you need to leave a digital footprint, so that you can have the claim that yes, you were the person that came up with Me Too, or you're the one that started the TikTok dance, or any of that stuff. Which if you haven't written it down, nobody can believe you. No one can hold it to you.
It's true.
So yeah. Digital footprint, that one. You can't take that idea without me being in it.
It's no, but also, why Everton? That was such a random place.
I don't know why. That was where they chose, because it was up north. Too much happens in London, I guess, on TV, isn't it?
Yeah, it's trying to branch out.
Yeah, no, I do actually like that, you know, because actually I find like so often that the UK can be like so London centric, and just Londoners in general kind of just think about, you know, the UK just as London. And
M25. When
you start going outside, you realize, you know, it's very different, you know, and good different, bad difference in some ways, but
different,
fundamentally just different. And actually, I like, you know, I'm interested to see how, given that, you know, maybe travel is restricted for a few, you know, maybe next year and a bit, like how much people start to explore UK and actually, you know, take from it in terms of getting a better understanding of you know, the country.
Their fellow taxpayers.
Yeah. Fellow taxpayers, you know. Yeah, you mentioned a couple of books, but I just wanted to ask, what was like the last book that you read which you would recommend to our Chop Chat chillers?
So I have a book out. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet, but I've got a book out called How to Be
It's the hectic that
it was done.
But also, you see this, don't be modded unnecessarily rather. Tell us about the book.
Yeah.
So it's for kids though. So it's for 7 to 9 year olds, and it's really handy if you are like on lockdown or anything like that, or you're having to stay at home, because it's basically maths but not by the curriculum. It's maths by just things. So obviously I love food. So the first chapter is like maths and food, but it's activities for kids to do that kind of bring it to life. So it's like, I don't know, cutting a watermelon into like 8 pieces, and you see that's what an 8 looks like. And if you put 2 together, then that's a quarter. So it's like that kind of practical maths book called How to Be a Maths Whiz, out with Dawn and Kindersley. Available at all good bookstores.
I really like that. I think, you know, so many people are kind of scared of maths, and then I think if you can just understand that it's a bit of a language and understand like some of the kind of where it's actually practical and useful to you, you can kind of you just engage with it a lot more. Obviously, you know, it's quite, when you're doing like econometrics, it can be a little bit abstract. But yeah, there's some.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But the other book, because I haven't finished reading the book. I wrote it, but I'm not reading it back. I think there was a book called Invisible Women, actually, that won a couple of prizes last year that I genuinely really enjoyed reading. So it's a little bit about this data thing, actually, but it's about the fact that, you know, if you do like medical trials, normally they'll do medical trials on a new drug, and they'll say it has to be men between 20 to 40 who they're going to test the drug on. But that drug like affects different people differently. So you shouldn't just do the trials on one part of society. You should actually kind of have them mirrored. And by not doing that, it means that then the medicines end up not being effective for people. Or it ends up being that we don't know how to, you know, help women that are pregnant, for example, or there's all these things that then it ends up impacting. So the book was about the fact that in a lot of cases in life, even things like when there's snow or like a blizzard, you know, they have to send the salt machines out, and they send them out to salt motorways. The way that they came to that decision was basically kind of didn't take into account the kinds of people who don't end up having to use motorways. So like silly things like when there's snowfall and there's snow everywhere, more people end up in hospital because they have like slipped in the snow. And so actually you should salt the pavements, not salt the roads, because the kind of people who slip then can't drive, I'm describing it really badly, but it's essentially by not having full data sets, even just women versus men, we've ended up making all these decisions that work for men, but actually because men aren't the entire population, it doesn't then end up working for the entire population. Whereas if we had better data sets and we're able to balance it better, we'll be able to make more decisions. But it's been really interesting because since then, once you've read the book, you then end up thinking, oh my goodness, there's so many things in life that it's like, they really haven't thought this one through, or they're not taking everyone into account, they're taking particular people, and here's the statistical backing, you know, in layman's terms, it's not a book for statisticians. Here's the backing for why that's a poor decision. And like we said, knowledge is power, right? So there you go.
That's really good.
That reminded me of, oh my gosh, her name just slipped my mind. Oh, she's a famous architect.
Zaha Hadid.
No. Oh my gosh, it's winding me up.
What did she say?
So I saw her speak at TEDx, and she was basically talking about planning and like town planning. And when you don't have women in the room, cities or spaces get built that actually a woman would look at and think, I'd never feel safe going down that road, or like we need more lights. And she was saying when there's an absence of, as I said, a certain group of people in the space, those sorts of things aren't thought about. And that's what basically, like you said, just remind me, it's going to really annoy me. I can see her talking, I can even remember what she's wearing. Can't name
someone can pop it in a comment or something, or on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll remember it later.
No, I mean, I'm actually going to go and read that book. It sounds really interesting.
I love it when he says this, because it means he buys it and then I could just borrow it. You're the older brother, do you know what I mean?
Oh
anyway,
my goodness.
Before we wrap up, we've got one more question. Do you want to ask it?
Yes. So I feel like it's gonna end up being a Beyonce song based on how many times you've mentioned her. But
it might not be, you know. There are other people who make songs sometimes.
Another hair flip moment would do it for me.
If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
Gosh. Would it be a Beyonce song, or would it be the album? I think it'd be the Homecoming album. I don't know if there's a particular song.
Told you to be Beyonce though, didn't I?
Yeah, because it's not. I don't know. I mean, it'd either be Beyonce or Rihanna. I don't know. Where's my phone? Ask the question again. What would be the theme song?
Yeah.
Or what was the question? The theme.
If your life had a theme song, so if your life was a movie, say, what would your theme song be?
I don't know. It'd be Homecoming. So it'd be the whole Homecoming album. You'd have to sit and listen to the whole thing before we watch the movie.
I like that.
Now you gotta go through it.
I like that. You just get to the cinema and it's just like a 40-minute kind of like
Is that not what she did? Is that not what she released? Is Homecoming not on Netflix for you to watch and absorb and then go and finish your work? Yeah, I know. And why now all like random songs are coming to my head that I'm like, that wouldn't really work. I don't know.
Why Homecoming?
Yeah. So Homecoming, I find it's literally my painkiller. Like if I have a headache, I put that song on. If I'm like in a bad mood, I put it. If I'm happy, I put it on. If I need to do work, I put it on. I don't know. I think there's something about like there's so much that she wanted to do with the performance, and she saw it as historic. But then the songs, like there's a bit of Destiny's Child, like there's a lot. It's like a chronicling of a lot of work that has been done, I guess. So when listening to you, you're almost like, do you know what? Like I haven't finished. Like there's so much we need to do. Like look at how far back she's able to go. Look at how far to the side she's able to go. Look at how many people she's able to bring, right? Because you hear the orchestra, you hear not even orchestra, you hear the bands, you hear like all of that in it. So I think Homecoming, it's almost like you hear it and you feel the weight and you feel the time investment and you feel the talent, but you feel the hard work. Like it sounds like hard work. I remember the first time I watched it, I was sweating by the end, and I was like, I can't believe I'm sweating. Like this woman did it live, you know, and with all these other people, and I'm here just watching it in East London on the TV, and I'm sweating. So I think it's one of those things that is just, you know, and it was what 4 months or 6 months that she went vegan for before she did it. So it's like, can you imagine? Like, there's nothing in my life that I've ever prepared for 6 months like that. Like, there's nothing. I don't prepare for anything. It's really bad. So like Homecoming it's that heaviness. So there's something in it that it's like, you know, this period pain or this migraine or this whatever, you can't be here like this because there's so much work that needs to be done. Like I need to focus like Homecoming. So, I don't know. But I don't even know if that's really the answer. What would be the song?
Yeah, just that depth and layering of life, and as you say, like almost not even resting on your laurels, thinking about how much work there is to do, and as you said, how much you in doing your own work that you actually bring in others through. So yeah, that's good.
So that's I think that would be it. I don't know. I'm trying to look. Or Yay by Burna Boy. I don't know.
Wait. You can't just throw that one in. It's like, oh yeah.
So now I'm like, what are my favourite songs? I'm literally scrolling through my Spotify. I'm like, what are my favourite songs? I don't know, man. That's a hard one. Or it'd be anything from Afrobeats. I don't know. I have to get back to you. All of these questions are too hard.
She'll be like, let's do a part 2.
Let me go and do my research. Let me go and take 6 months to prepare for that question. I don't know. Or something Afrobeats. But Afrobeat songs, they just are good vibes. I like good vibes. I like good times. But the songs that really mean anything, some of them. But I love Afrobeat
vibes, so we're going for Beyonce's hard work, basically.
Yeah, like Yay is like literally. It's like it's the Nigerian national anthem at this point, isn't it? Really.
I got a few friends who definitely will subscribe to that. Yeah.
Is that like you feel like you need to stand up when you hear it? You're like, yeah, okay, let's begin now. This is us. So I don't know.
The next one.
That's a really hard question.
No, definitely.
Anne-Marie, honestly, it's been such a pleasure to chat to you. You taught us so much on that Futureproofing.
Just a lot to.
Yeah.
It felt like a lecture. Sorry, it was supposed to be like a chat, but I just started going, didn't I?
I think that's the, you know, as you said, go back to the idea of that supper club. Like that's actually the best chat, though, right? Like light, but then depth at the same time. And so yeah, that was perfect. Thank you.
And good food. That's the only thing that was missing here. I should have brought jollof. I had jollof earlier. I should have brought it and eaten it while we were talking. Literally.
I'm actually finished. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
That's what we should do. You should send it in the packet. I think I said this to you before. I'm like, you need to send it to the house. As you're eating it, I can be eating it. That's what we're doing. That's what we need to have done. Or puff puff or something. I don't know. That's what I'm going to make this week. I'm going to make puff puff this weekend.
Nice.
Okay, that's
the first time ever.
Oh.
Ooh. It's do you have the techers for the dropping it in? Okay.
I don't know.
we'll find out.
I can only get better. I can only get better with my techers. I don't know. I've seen there's like a Instagram or something I saw with someone literally like that, or something like that to kind of like give you the round. Who knows? I don't know what it's going to end up looking like.
Maybe this is going to be your thing that you'll spend the 6 months preparing to make the perfect puff puff.
Hopefully not. Ain't nobody got time for that. It's not for puff puff. I'll be hungry. Yeast in these streets. You know how much yeast is? The street value of yeast at the moment.
Anne-Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and we hope to catch up with you soon.
Really enjoyed it. Yeah, next time, jollof.
Bye.
See you.